Good morning. I want to start with a story. In 1954, Roger Bannister ran a mile in under 4 minutes, a feat that doctors, scientists, and athletes alike said was physically impossible. But just weeks later, others began doing it too. What changed? Not the human body, but the human mind. Mental strength isn't about being unaffected by difficulty. It's about how we respond to it. It's not about pretending we're invincible. It's about choosing to persist when we are not. Today, I want to share 5 core principles that will help you become mentally strong, not in theory, but in the real world. Because we don't need more motivation. We need tools that work when we're tired, discouraged, and doubting ourselves. Let's begin. We live in a time where comfort is not just available, it's expected. We can adjust room temperature without leaving the couch, get food delivered in minutes, and avoid nearly every inconvenience with a swipe or a click. Technology has done something remarkable. It has eliminated friction. But in doing so, it has also dulled one of the most important tools we have for growth: discomfort. Mental strength isn't born in the warm glow of convenience. It's carved out in the cold, uncertain terrain of challenge. Discomfort is not something to be feared. It's something to be understood and even pursued. That's counterintuitive for most people. We're wired to avoid pain, to pull back when things get hard. But what we often don't realize is that our greatest breakthroughs usually arrive on the other side of our most uncomfortable moments. It's not the success that makes you strong, it's the struggle. When we actively avoid discomfort, we unknowingly deny ourselves the very experiences that develop resilience, discipline, and clarity. There's a reason elite military units train the way they do. When Navy SEALs go through BUD/S, their infamous training program, they're not just being physically pushed. They're being mentally and emotionally broken down, hour after hour, day after day. Why? Because they understand something most people don't. The ability to operate under stress, pressure, and fatigue doesn't happen by chance. It's built. They are taught to become comfortable being uncomfortable. While that phrase sounds catchy, the truth behind it is anything but glamorous. It means leaning into fear when your instincts are screaming to run. It means showing up when every part of you wants to quit. It means embracing the hard again and again until the hard becomes your new normal. Now, most of us will never be dropped into combat zones or tested in the ways those soldiers are. But we face our own kind of battles every single day. The difficult conversation with a loved one we keep putting off. The business we dream of starting but never act on. The habit we know is ruining us but don't confront. These aren't minor details. These are the quiet moments where our mental strength is either formed or forfeited. Think about a time in your life when everything fell apart. Maybe it was the end of a relationship, the death of a loved one, losing your job, or hearing the word no when you needed it to be yes. You didn't ask for that discomfort, but it came anyway. And if you're honest with yourself, you'll probably admit looking back, it shaped you. It taught you something no comfort ever could. That you can survive, that you're capable of more than you thought. That pain, while brutal, is often the birthplace of wisdom. The truth is, growth doesn't happen when you're comfortable. Growth happens when you are forced to stretch. And stretching is never easy. It hurts, it's awkward, it's uncertain, but it's necessary. While life will inevitably throw discomfort your way, the most powerful and mentally strong people don't wait for it. They choose it. Choosing discomfort means voluntarily stepping into situations that challenge you, saying yes to things you're afraid of, saying no to things that steal your time and energy, speaking up when silence feels safer. It's choosing to try again even after you've failed, choosing to stay present in grief when distraction seems easier, choosing to take the high road when revenge feels more satisfying. Every single one of these choices builds something inside you. Neuroscience supports this too. The brain is highly adaptable. It rewires based on repeated behavior. This is called neuroplasticity. When you consistently step into discomfort, your brain starts to recalibrate. It no longer interprets challenges as danger. It starts to see them as normal. The discomfort doesn't go away, but your response to it evolves. What was once overwhelming becomes manageable. What felt impossible becomes familiar. Your threshold for adversity expands. That's mental strength, not feeling nothing, but feeling everything and still moving forward. But let's be real. This isn't about glorifying hardship. Discomfort for its own sake isn't the goal. You don't need to suffer endlessly to be strong. This is about choosing the kind of discomfort that leads to purpose, the discomfort that means you're becoming someone better. There's a difference between suffering that breaks you and challenge that builds you. Knowing that difference and leaning into the latter is the mark of someone truly resilient. The beautiful part is, discomfort doesn't have to come from massive, life-altering events. In fact, some of the most powerful training happens in the small daily choices. The moment you wake up early when you'd rather sleep in. When you have the tough conversation instead of burying your frustration. When you take the stairs instead of the elevator. When you sit in silence instead of numbing out with a screen. Every small act of chosen discomfort strengthens the muscle of mental endurance. And just like physical muscles, the more you train it, the stronger it gets. Let me share a quick story. There was a young man who had terrible stage fright. The idea of public speaking made him physically ill. But instead of running from it, he made a decision. Every week he would volunteer to speak in front of small groups. The first time his voice shook. The second time his hands trembled. The third time he forgot what he was saying halfway through. But he kept going, week after week, not because he stopped being afraid, but because he stopped letting fear be in charge. That young man now speaks to thousands. His fear never fully disappeared, but his strength became bigger than his fear. That's what embracing discomfort looks like. There's a line that's often used in endurance sports. You can do hard things. But the more accurate version might be, you can become the kind of person who does hard things. And you do that through consistent exposure to discomfort, controlled, deliberate, chosen difficulty. That's the path, that's the training ground, so start small. Say no to the easy way out just once today. Step into something that scares you, not recklessly, but intentionally. Let yourself feel the tension. Let yourself sweat. Let yourself fall if needed, but don't retreat. Because every time you stay in that place a little longer than you're comfortable with, you're building a part of you that nothing can take away. Mental strength isn't gifted, it's practiced. It's built one uncomfortable step at a time. And when you stop fearing discomfort, when you start welcoming it, you stop shrinking your life to fit your fear. And you start expanding your life to fit your potential. Focus on what you control. Reclaiming your power. We spend so much of our time and energy wrapped up in things we have absolutely no control over. What people think of us, whether someone replies to a message, whether the meeting goes perfectly, whether the weather ruins our plans, whether the decision someone else makes benefits us or not. It's endless and it's exhausting. Most of the anxiety we experience doesn't come from what's happening. It comes from how tightly we hold on to the illusion that we can control it all. And when we can't, we panic. But there's something powerful that mentally strong people understand. They know the difference between what's theirs to carry and what isn't. They focus their energy where it actually makes a difference in what they can control. Their attitude, their effort, their response. There's a well-known idea in leadership psychology that illustrates this beautifully. Imagine two circles. The first is the circle of concern. It's filled with everything you care about: global events, your reputation, the stock market, someone else's mood, your boss's opinion. But you don't directly control any of those things. Now imagine a second, smaller circle inside the first one. This is the circle of influence. It holds everything you can affect: your thoughts, your words, your choices, your habits. Mentally strong people live in that smaller circle. They don't ignore the big things, but they refuse to waste energy on what they can't change. And in doing that, they actually expand their influence over time. I have a friend, let's call him Alex. During the height of the pandemic, he lost his job. It wasn't because he failed. His company downsized overnight. One day he was employed, and the next he was staring at a severance email. For 2 days he spiraled. He played out every worst-case scenario in his head. He blamed the company, he worried about rent, he couldn't sleep. And then on the third day, something shifted. He sat down with a notepad and wrote a question at the top of the page. What can I control? Just that. 6 words, and what came next changed everything. He listed the things he could do: update his resume, reach out to 5 old contacts, spend 2 hours a day learning a new software skill online, apply to at least 3 jobs a week, work on his mindset, meditate to stay grounded, move his body every morning so he didn't stay in that pit of helplessness. None of these things gave him a job instantly, but they gave him his power back. 3 months later, he had a new job that paid better and gave him more flexibility. That wasn't luck, that was focus, because mentally strong people don't live in the land of why me. They live in the world of what now. We often forget how much power we still have, even in moments where we feel powerless. If you're going through something heavy right now, maybe a loss, a betrayal, or a setback you didn't see coming, ask yourself the same question. What can I control? And then answer it. Even if your list starts with just one thing, I can control how I speak to myself. That's enough to start. Think about how many things you've stressed over in the past that never actually came true. Think about how many hours of your life were spent replaying conversations, crafting the perfect text, trying to fix someone's perception of you, or worrying that things wouldn't go your way. Now, think about what could have changed if that energy had been used instead on your own growth, your own peace, your own presence. Let's go deeper. When you place your energy into what you can control, you don't just become more productive, you become calmer. Your brain stops spinning in circles. You start to feel anchored. Studies on locus of control, how people perceive their ability to influence events, have shown that individuals with a strong internal locus, meaning they believe they have control over their actions and their consequences, are more resilient, more persistent, and significantly less prone to anxiety and depression. In other words, people who focus on what they can control don't just perform better, they feel better. Now, let me be clear, this doesn't mean we ignore reality. It doesn't mean we bury our emotions and pretend things are fine when they're not. No, mental strength is not denial, it's discipline. It's the discipline to feel the pain, the fear, the doubt, and still come back to what's actionable, to what's yours. It's asking the hard but honest question: is this within my control, or am I just spinning my wheels hoping it changes on its own? We can't make people treat us a certain way, but we can choose whether we tolerate it. We can't force the world to slow down, but we can slow ourselves down. We can't control the outcome of our efforts every time, but we can give our best, knowing that the outcome never defines our worth. There's something incredibly freeing about letting go of what's not yours. not in a careless way, but in a conscious one. You stop wasting your energy trying to micromanage the universe, and instead, you reclaim your time, your mind, and your emotional capacity to do what actually matters. A student once told me that during exam season, she felt paralyzed. She would freeze for hours, unable to study because she was so afraid of failing. So, we sat down and made a list. What's in your control? Studying for 1 hour at a time, taking breaks, getting enough sleep, asking for help on topics you struggle with. And what's not in your control? The exact questions on the test, the grades other students get, what the professor thinks. She started focusing only on the first list. Her performance improved, sure, but the biggest change? Her confidence, not because the test was easier, but because she was stronger. That's what happens when you focus on what's possible instead of what's uncertain. You become a person who responds instead of reacts, who creates instead of complains, who adapts instead of avoids. You don't live in helplessness, you live in motion. So the next time you're overwhelmed, take a moment, pause, breathe, and ask yourself the question, what can I control? Not to magically solve everything, but to remind yourself that even when the world feels chaotic, your power never disappeared. It just needed to be pointed in the right direction. We all live our lives through stories. From the moment we wake up to the moment we fall asleep, the narratives we tell ourselves shape how we see the world, how we respond to challenges, and ultimately, how we move forward or hold ourselves back. These stories are powerful because they feel like facts. They become the invisible script in our heads, guiding our actions, framing our identity, and influencing our future. Think for a moment about some of the stories you might be telling yourself. I'm not good enough. I always mess things up. I'll never succeed at this. How many times have you repeated these thoughts so often that they felt like undeniable truths? These aren't truths. They're stories, and stories can be rewritten. It's easy to forget that our mind is constantly interpreting events, creating meaning from experiences, but not always with accuracy or kindness. These internal scripts are often shaped by past failures, criticism from others, or moments when we felt vulnerable. Over time, they become self-fulfilling prophecies, convincing us that the narrative is the only way things can be. But that's a lie, and the most powerful thing you need to know is this: you are not your story, you are the narrator. You have the power to pause, reflect, and rewrite the stories that no longer serve you. This isn't just motivational fluff, it's backed by science. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, a well-respected psychological approach, shows that when we actively challenge and reframe our negative self-talk, we change how our brain responds to situations. This is neuroscience in action, rewiring your thought patterns to create better outcomes, not just wishful thinking. Imagine for a moment that every setback or failure you've faced is a chapter in your story. Now, imagine that chapter being written by someone else, someone who focuses on growth, resilience, and learning instead of failure and defeat. The power to take the pen and write a new narrative is yours. Consider the difference between saying, "I'm terrible at this," and "I'm learning through this." The first statement traps you in a fixed mindset where mistakes define your worth and future. The second opens the door to growth, recognizing that every challenge is an opportunity to get better. When you change the story you tell yourself, you change your trajectory. This idea is not just theoretical. Think about athletes who recover from injuries. At first, they might feel broken, discouraged, and defeated. But the ones who come back stronger are those who tell a different story. They don't define themselves by the injury, they define themselves by their comeback. They say, "This is a setback, but it's part of my journey. I'm learning new ways to train, to heal, and to excel. That narrative fuels their recovery and their success. Or consider entrepreneurs who face repeated failures. The difference between those who give up and those who ultimately succeed often comes down to the story they tell themselves about failure. The successful ones frame failure not as a sign of inadequacy, but as a critical step in the process of innovation. They rewrite their story to say, each failure is a lesson, a guidepost on my path to success. The stories you tell yourself shape your emotions, your behaviors, and your relationships. When you believe you're not good enough, you might hold back, avoid risks, or settle for less. When you believe you can learn and grow, you take action, embrace challenges, and open yourself up to possibilities. Your mindset changes everything. It's also important to recognize that rewriting your story is a practice, not a one-time event. It requires awareness and intentionality. The next time you find yourself stuck in negative self-talk, pause, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, what else could be true here? This simple question cracks open the door to alternative narratives. Instead of "I always mess things up," you might say, "I'm figuring this out step by step." Instead of "I'll never succeed," try "I'm building the skills I need to get there." This shift in language rewires your brain and empowers you to move forward differently. It's not about ignoring reality or pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to see yourself as capable of growth, change, and resilience despite setbacks. You are not your failures, you are not your doubts, you are the narrator of your life story, and you have the power to edit your script anytime you choose. This truth can be life-changing, especially during moments of hardship. When everything seems to be falling apart, the story you tell yourself in that moment can determine whether you rise or remain stuck. Choosing to rewrite your story can transform despair into hope, confusion into clarity, and fear into courage. Remember, the narrative you believe shapes the life you live. If the story in your mind is full of limitations, doubt, and fear, that's the story your life will follow. But if you choose to tell a different story, one of possibility, learning, and strength, you open the door to a future you might never have imagined. So embrace your role as the narrator. When faced with a setback or challenge, resist the pull of the old scripts that weigh you down. Instead, ask yourself, what else could be true? Give yourself permission to rewrite the narrative. Start telling a story that reflects who you truly are and who you are becoming. Because ultimately, the story you believe is not just a reflection of your past. That's the blueprint for your future, and that story, it's yours to write. Mental strength is often misunderstood. Many believe it means having an unshakable, unbreakable exterior, the ability to push through hardship by suppressing emotions, ignoring pain, and pretending that everything is fine. But true mental strength isn't about burying your feelings deep inside or pretending they don't exist. It's about something far more nuanced and powerful. Learning to navigate your emotions, to understand them, and to move forward with courage even when those emotions are intense and uncomfortable. Imagine emotions not as obstacles, but as signposts. They are not stop signs demanding you halt your journey. Instead, they are signals guiding you, offering insight into what matters deeply to you. This perspective is transformative because it reframes how you experience emotional challenges. Instead of fighting your feelings or trying to avoid them, you approach them with curiosity and acceptance. Groundbreaking research by psychologist Susan David introduced a concept called emotional agility. She found that people who try to suppress or ignore their emotions often get stuck in a cycle of avoidance and stress. This suppression doesn't make them stronger. It makes them brittle, fragile under pressure, and prone to breakdowns. On the other hand, those who embrace their emotions, who allow themselves to feel deeply without judgment, and then take purposeful steps forward, develop real strength. They don't get paralyzed by sadness, fear, or doubt. They learn from those emotions and let them inform their actions. This kind of strength requires courage. The courage to feel discomfort, sadness, fear, and uncertainty without letting those feelings dictate your choices. It's easy to confuse emotional strength with emotional invulnerability. But strength is not about never feeling sadness or fear. It's about feeling those emotions fully and still doing what's right, still moving toward your goals and values. Think about moments in your life when you felt overwhelmed or anxious. Maybe you faced a difficult conversation, a painful loss, or an uncertain future. In those moments, the impulse might be to shut down, to push feelings away, or to react impulsively. But what if instead you paused and asked yourself, what is this emotion trying to teach me? This simple question can change everything. That pause, just a brief moment of reflection, shifts you from a reactive state to a responsive one. Instead of being swept away by emotional currents, you become the captain of your ship, steering with awareness. You start to recognize that fear might be signaling that something important is at stake. Sadness might be pointing to a loss that needs honoring. Doubt might be encouraging you to reconsider your approach or seek support. This process of emotional agility transforms how you experience life's challenges. Instead of being controlled by emotions, you use them as tools to guide your decisions. You become more resilient because you're not resisting reality, you're engaging with it fully. There's a powerful story that illustrates this beautifully. A woman faced a painful career setback. Her dream job slipped through her fingers. Instead of numbing her disappointment or pretending it didn't matter, she allowed herself to grieve the loss. She felt the sadness, the frustration, the self-doubt. But instead of letting those feelings trap her, she asked herself what this experience could teach her. She realized it was an opportunity to reevaluate her goals and develop new skills. She processed the emotions, learned from them, and took deliberate steps forward. Months later, she found a new path that was even more fulfilling than the one she had lost. This example reminds us that emotional agility doesn't mean always feeling good or being positive. It means facing whatever emotions arise and moving through them with clarity and purpose. This is how mental strength is built, one moment of courageous feeling, one wise choice at a time. It also requires a shift in mindset about emotions themselves. Emotions are not enemies to be defeated or weaknesses to hide. They are vital signals from within, providing valuable information about our needs, values, and environment. When you learn to listen to these signals without judgment, you gain a profound source of insight. When you practice this, you create space for self-compassion. You stop beating yourself up for feeling scared or sad. You understand that emotions are part of being human, not signs of failure. This compassion fuels resilience because it creates an internal environment where healing and growth can happen. In practical terms, building emotional agility involves small but powerful habits. When you notice a difficult emotion rising, don't run from it or push it down. Instead, take a breath and ask, what is this emotion trying to teach me? Listen deeply. Allow yourself to feel without rushing to change the feeling or fix the situation immediately. Then decide your next action based on both your feelings and your values. Over time, this practice rewires your brain. You become less reactive and more reflective. You develop the ability to face emotional storms without losing your sense of direction. This is what separates those who are merely surviving from those who are truly thriving. The courage to navigate emotions rather than ignore them builds a kind of mental muscle that can carry you through the toughest challenges life throws your way. It makes you adaptable, resilient, and deeply human. So remember, mental strength is not about emotional numbness. It's about emotional agility, the ability to feel deeply, process fully, and still take action toward what matters most. When you develop this skill, you don't just endure life's hardships, you grow through them. And that growth is the foundation of lasting mental strength. We often like to think of ourselves as self-made, independent individuals, capable of forging our own paths without relying on anyone else. It's a comforting story, one that emphasizes our personal power and resilience. But the truth is far more intricate and revealing. We become who we're around, our environment, the people we choose to spend time with, and the relationships we cultivate shape us in ways we might not even realize. This isn't about losing autonomy. It's about recognizing that connection is the soil from which mental strength grows. Consider the profound insights from a 75-year Harvard study on adult development, one of the most comprehensive studies on human happiness and longevity ever conducted. The researchers found that the single greatest predictor of long-term happiness and health wasn't wealth, status, or career success. It was something far more elemental: strong relationships, deep, meaningful connections with others. Not the things we accumulate or the accolades we earn hold the key to a thriving life. When we think about mental strength, we often imagine it as a solitary endeavor, battling challenges alone, pushing through obstacles with sheer willpower. But the reality is that mentally strong people don't go it alone. They surround themselves with others who challenge them to grow, uplift them when they falter, and hold them accountable when they stray. These relationships act as mirrors, reflecting back not just who we are, but who we can become. Imagine a circle of influence composed of people who believe in you, challenge your assumptions, and push you to stretch beyond your limits. These are not enablers who let you stay comfortable or reinforce your excuses. They are the people who see your potential and refuse to let you settle for less. They call you out when you fall into old patterns, celebrate your victories sincerely, and walk alongside you in times of struggle. This kind of support doesn't just boost your morale, it reshapes your mindset. When you know someone believes in you, it becomes easier to believe in yourself. When someone holds you accountable, you are more likely to take the hard steps necessary for growth. It's like having a team behind you, ready to catch you when you stumble, but also pushing you to reach higher than you thought possible. But mental strength also means having the courage to let go of relationships that drain your energy or diminish your sense of worth. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to step away from people who manipulate your feelings, create chaos, or stifle your growth. These toxic connections act like anchors, holding you back from becoming the strongest version of yourself. Letting go isn't about bitterness or resentment. It's an act of self-preservation and respect. Ask yourself this powerful question: who in my life makes me feel more capable? Who encourages you, believes in your potential, and sees your value? These are the people you want to spend more time with. Seek them out intentionally, nourish those connections. And if you find your circle lacking in these types of relationships, consider becoming that person for someone else. There is immense power in being the person who uplifts others, who listens without judgment, who challenges gently but firmly, and who holds space for growth. When you become that source of strength for others, you also reinforce your own mental resilience. Strength breeds strength. By cultivating connection, you are not just building your own mental muscle. You are creating a network of mutual support that can weather life's storms together. This is the essence of mental strength. It's not an isolated fortress, but a vibrant ecosystem. You grow by surrounding yourself with energy that fuels you, relationships that push you, and people who hold you to the highest version of yourself. And sometimes it means pruning away the parts of your life that no longer serve you, making room for growth and renewal. Remember, mental strength is a community sport. No one stands strong alone for long. The people you choose to walk alongside matter profoundly. Their beliefs about you become your beliefs about yourself. Their encouragement becomes the wind beneath your wings. Their challenge becomes the spark that ignites your growth. So look around. Who lifts you up? Who believes in your potential when you can't see it yourself? Who challenges you to become better? Spend more time with these people. And if you can't find them, be that person for someone else. Because in giving strength to others, you reinforce your own, and together, you build a foundation of resilience, courage, and unwavering mental strength that no obstacle can shake. Mental strength is often mistaken as a rare gift, something you're either born with or without. But the truth is far more empowering. Mental strength is a decision. It's a conscious choice you make every day, in every moment, to engage with life in a way that fuels growth rather than stifles it. It's a commitment not to perfection or fearlessness, but to resilience, courage, and progress. This decision begins with embracing discomfort. In a world obsessed with comfort and convenience, choosing discomfort feels counterintuitive. Yet, it is precisely in those moments of discomfort, when we stretch beyond what's familiar, that we forge our greatest strength. Think of the times when life pushed you beyond your limits. It wasn't easy, it wasn't pleasant, but it changed you. It made you tougher, wiser, more capable. To build mental muscle, you have to lean into these challenges, not avoid them. Choose discomfort before it chooses you. Because waiting for hardship to find you means you're always reacting rather than leading your own life. Alongside embracing discomfort is the imperative to focus on what you can control. Too often, we waste precious energy worrying about things beyond our reach. How others perceive us, unpredictable outcomes, or circumstances outside our influence. But mental strength flourishes when we invest our energy in what we can control: our attitude, our effort, and our response. Imagine your life divided into two circles, one filled with the things you can control, and the other with things you cannot. Focus intensely on the first and watch your power grow. Furthermore, recognize that your thoughts are not facts. They are stories you tell yourself, and you are the narrator. Rewrite your story when it no longer serves you. Challenge negative self-talk. Replace "I always fail" with "I am learning and growing." This isn't about denial, it's about intentionality. By actively reframing your internal narrative, you empower yourself to see possibilities where you once saw limitations. Your mindset is your greatest asset. Cultivate it wisely. Finally, understand that mental strength is deeply intertwined with your ability to navigate your emotions. True strength isn't about suppressing feelings or pretending they don't exist. It's about emotional agility, allowing yourself to feel deeply, processing those emotions with curiosity, and then choosing how to act in alignment with your values. Your emotions are not enemies, they are signals. Learn to listen to them without judgment, and they will guide you toward wiser choices and deeper resilience. Mental strength isn't a destination. It's a journey, a continuous practice of these principles. It's built incrementally, one conscious choice at a time. It's in the quiet decision to lean into something hard today, to focus on your effort when the outcome is uncertain, to change the story you tell yourself about a setback, and to allow yourself to feel without being consumed by your feelings. So, where do you start? Start small. Pick one of these principles and apply it today. Choose a tiny discomfort. Redirect your focus to something you can control. Challenge one negative thought, or simply acknowledge an emotion without judgment. Every small act of intentionality compounds, building the foundation of unwavering mental strength. Ultimately, mental strength is the freedom to live a life aligned with your potential, not limited by your fears. It's the confidence that you can face whatever comes your way, not because you're invincible, but because you are resilient, adaptable, and deeply human. It's a journey worth taking, one intentional step at a time. What small step will you take today to build your mental strength?